Hallo alle sammen. Jeg må bare si at vi litt på overtid. Venter 5-6 minutter litt i grammet på grunn av at det kommer en del folk som sier at de litt forsinket, og det registrering ute. Så ja, gi det 5 minutter så kan vi begynne etter hvert. Jeg vet at klokka 6 nå, tenker jeg. Ja. Hjertelig velkommen alle sammen. Mitt navn Sara Gaulin. Jeg leder av LIM, Likestilling, Inkludering og Mangfold, og vi har æren av å invitere dere til bokturneen til Zineb El-Zouri og Halima Al-Sabi, som debattleder Hilde Sandvik. De kommer inn i lokalet hvert øyeblikk. Ja, de skulle komme da... Ja, gi meg 1 minutt, så de her straks. Arrangementet foregår på engelsk, så det har vi vel informert litt om tidligere. Nå kommer de damene her inne nå. Og det varer 1 time. Det blir tid til spørsmål. Vi har satt av kvarter 20 minutter til spørsmål. Hjertelig velkommen. Hilde Sandvik, kjenner dere sikkert igjen, Halima og Zineb. Ordet ditt, Hilde.
Thank you very much. I have to admit that I'm very honored to sit here with 2 women who have, in very different ways, been paying the price for so many years for just being who they are. And that fills me with a lot of awe and also with a kind of a respectfulness. And I'm so happy you're both here, Halima and Zineb. Thank you for coming here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Both of you have written books. And both of you have told your stories, also in very different ways. Before we go to you, Zineb, because I know that a lot of you sitting in here in this room perhaps also have heard you talking here before because you've been visiting Oslo at Oslo Freedom Forum a couple of times, at least. And we know your story because it's world news. And the price you pay, we can vividly see here in this room today, which is, it makes something with us to just experience that. Halima, you also know Oslo, and part of Oslo also knows you, which is great. Both of you are actually from Moroccan descent. That's something you share. But Zineb, you grew up in Morocco, and Halima, your parents came from Morocco to Denmark, so you are actually Danish. But you have been here for some years as well, and we will come back to that. Yeah. You wrote your story, My Inner Atlas, and it was recently out in Denmark, and a lot of papers have been writing about you and your story, but that is not the first time. So I'm not sure where to start this. Who are Halima?
Ja. Jeg har fået lov til at tale dansk. Jeg håber, at det går bra. Sorry.
Accept me.
Yeah.
You will do a private conference for me
Okay.
later. Yeah.
I will translate half of it. Yeah.
Ja, hvem er Halima? Det er et godt spørgsmål, og jeg tror, at min rejse startede måske allerede før jeg blev født, hvor min skæbne blev bestemt allerede inden mine forældre de tog rejsen fra Marokko til Danmark. Det stod allerede i kortene, hvem jeg skulle være, og hvad min skæbne skulle bestå i, uden at jeg ligesom hverken havde eller har nogen medbestemmelse i forhold til, hvordan mit liv skulle være, og hvordan jeg gerne ville leve. Nogle gange så spørger jeg mig selv, jeg tænker, jamen, hvorfor indordnede jeg mig ikke bare og gjorde, som min søskende også gjorde, og bare levede det liv, der var bestemt for den på forkant. Men jeg er nok født med en eller anden uretfærdighedsfølelse, som grundlagde sig allerede, da jeg var barn. Og den uretfærdighedsfølelse, den voksede bare, jo ældre jeg blev, at det kan ikke være rigtigt, at der er nogle ting, som mine brødre må, men som jeg ikke må. At jeg så min mor i en rolle, som jeg ikke synes var fair i forhold til, at hun skulle opvarte mændene i familien, og mens de ikke havde noget som helst ansvar.
For det som er sånn bare bildet her også, er en far som kommer som arbeidsinnvandrer til Danmark, lever ganske fattigslig, begynner å jobbe i sementfabrikk, finner ut at han er nødt til å ha noen som lager maten for seg, og så henter han en kone. Og så blir du født, og du blir ganske raskt en slags tjener i familien. Men altså, der er så mange aspekter med den historien som det går an å gå inn i. Du skriver den historien på grunn av noen grusomme ting som skjedde deg.
Ja. Altså, jeg har jo håbet, at min historie vil bidrage til at tænde lys for ungdommen, der befinder sig i vanskelige situationer. Der er mange ungdomme, som lever i vanskelige levevilkår, både i Norge, Danmark, Sverige og i andre lande i Europa, også for den sags skyld. Og rigtig mange unge, når man er i 18, 19, 20 år, så har man ikke, kan man ikke se langt ud i fremtiden, når man tænker, at det skal nok gå bra. Så jeg håber, at min bog kan være et lys i mørket for ungdommen. Og jeg håber også, at den kan være med til at give professionelle fagfolk en forståelse af, hvad det er for en pris, man som ung jente eller ung gut betaler, når man vokser op i en kultur, som den, jeg har vokset op i.
For det som skjedde var jo bare en banal ting i livet, kan man si. Du blir giftet bort. Først forsøkt giftet bort når du er 12. Og så fordi du blir sendt tilbake på en gjenoppdragelsestur. Og så blir du giftet bort i en alder av 15 til en dobbelt så gammel mann. Som du får 2 barn med.
Ja, 3.
3 barn med. Selvfølgelig, for de 2 jentene og så den gutten. Og så skiller du deg. Og det tenker en jo, det gjør du. Det er op til dig. Du gør det. Så bliver det livsfarligt.
Ja, altså der er jo mange, altså der bliver skilt, gift og skilt, uden at det har betydning, eller det har konsekvenser for de mennesker, som tager en beslutning. Jeg vidste godt, at det ville få nogle konsekvenser, men jeg vidste ikke, hvor vanskeligt det kom til at blive, både for mig og for mine barn, da jeg valgte at lade mig skille som 7-8-årig. Jeg vidste ikke, at jeg skulle tilbringe flere år under jorden med politialarm og politibeskyttelse. Og jeg vidste ikke, at det kom til at koste mig alt, hvad man kan miste som menneske. Jeg mistede mit job, jeg mistede min netværk, jeg mistede mit helbred, jeg mistede min alt.
Dine barn.
Og jeg mistede til sidst, kan man sige, det dyrebareste jeg har, det er mine børn, og dem mistede jeg også. Ja.
Og du våkner på et tidspunkt altså av, du har taget metadon for at sove. Ja. Du vidste ikke, det var metadon.
Nej. Det er jo så en af de ting, kan man sige, som jeg jo skammer mig over i dag, at jeg tog nogle valg, fordi jeg var så presset og var så meget i krise, at jeg gjorde nogle ting for at overleve. Og det var blandt andet, jeg var så angst, at jeg sov ikke i mange dage. Til sidst kunne jeg ikke skelne mellem, hvad der var virkelighed og hvad der var fantasi. Fordi at jeg var så træt og overanstrengt, at jeg bare ønskede at sove bare lidt til at kunne samle kræfter til at fortsætte. Så ja.
En av de tingene som vi kommer til å snakke om jo nettopp det at når folk trenger beskyttelse, hva gjør samfunnet? Og det var ikke din mann som kom etter deg, men det var din veldig kriminelle bror som kom etter deg.
Ja.
Og du visste at han god med våpen. Det hadde du sett siden han var ganske liten.
Ja. Ja.
Og så blir du altså i løpet av, hvis jeg husker rett, 2 år, 18 ganger på krisesenter.
Det var ikke kun krisecenter. Jeg flyttede fra venner til krisecenter, til lejligheder, til hotelværelser, til venners kælder, til nogle gange så sov jeg i bilen, fordi jeg kunne ikke overskue. Jeg kunne ikke overskue at skulle møde mennesker og se, at mit liv var faldet fra hinanden, og alligevel havde jeg bare brug for at bare være mig selv, og ikke blive stillet til ansvar for nogen eller noget. Så nogle gange så satte jeg bilen varme i bilen og lagde sædet ned og sov, og nogle gange havde jeg Amin, dengang han var ikke så gammel, han var lige knap 3 år. Ham rullede jeg ind i et tæppe, og så fik han lov til at sove på bagsædet af bilen. Så det var mit liv i nogle år, ja. Og det var jo, kan man sige, det der er beskrevet i bogen, er jo en lille del af rigtig mange episoder, jeg var ude i.
Og basis for dette ordet ære eller skam på marokkansk, som hvad det ordet?
Shoma.
Yeah. Yes, now you understood.
Yeah.
That was the cue. That was the cue. And I hope is it okay that we switch to English?
Yes,
because
of course.
Halima tells the story about how very dangerous it is to challenge the concept of shuma.
Yes.
And the personal consequences we've heard about now, it's quite something. But then it is, who do you blame?
Det var et godt spørgsmål. Det var faktisk et vældig godt spørgsmål, fordi jeg bebrejder sådan set ikke hverken min familie eller samfundet, eller jeg har i mange år bebrejdet mig selv for, at jeg ikke var stærkere, end at jeg endte på psykiatrisk afdeling og kæmpede for mit liv. Men jeg bebrejdede faktisk også på et tidspunkt det samfund, da jeg henvendte mig til politiet og til krisecentre, fik jeg at vide, at jeg skulle gemme mig væk, og så kunne jeg sidde og tænke, mens hun fandt krisecenterlisten frem, så kunne jeg sidde og tænke, om jeg ville hedde Hanne eller Helene, fordi nu skulle jeg jo skifte navn. Så tænkte jeg, jamen, hvad har jeg gjort forkert, siden jeg skal skifte navn, siden jeg skal gemme mig bort. Jeg er bare blevet skilt, som alle mulige andre i det her samfund gør. Så jeg var meget vred på samfundet, at da kameraet var slukket, og journalisterne var gået hjem, og politikerne var gået hjem, så fik jeg lov til frit fald med 180 i timen. Ja.
Men du plukket op nu. Altså det kan jeg sige, at noe av redningen var Oslo.
Ja.
Går det an at sige det?
Det var det, ja.
Det er selvfølgelig veldig hardt at høre, som for en som bor i Bergen.
Ja.
Men du fik jobb på Oslo Met i en periode, når du egentlig havde altså raknet fuldstændig.
Ja. Der skete det, at jeg gjorde min master i socialt arbejde færdig. Jeg er uddannet socionom i bund. Og søgte job i et års tid, og så kunne jeg ikke få noget job, og så tænkte jeg, at jeg har brug for at komme væk, hvor der ikke er nogen, der kender mig. Jeg har brug for at starte forfra og blive nulstillet og få lov til, at folk lærer mig at kende som fagperson, som Halima, som det menneske jeg er, og ikke som hende, der er blevet truet på livet, eller hende, der har stået frem i medier, eller hende, der hvis familie har ønsket død. Så jeg tog simpelthen pakkede mine ting, og så sagde jeg farvel til min gut på 8 år, og sagde til ham, jeg kommer igen, og vi skal Skype en hel masse, og så kommer du, og jeg kommer tilbage. Og så fik jeg faktisk en ny chance i livet ved at jeg fik job på Oslo Met, og fik en chance for at vise, hvem jeg var, og i øvrigt kan se, at Tore, som var med til at ansætte mig, HR-afdelingen, sidder her i dag. Og det er jeg jo ret stolt over, at jeg fik den chance i livet. Så jeg mødte nogle mennesker, som gav mig lov til at få en ny chance i livet.
Og så er du altså nå rådgiver for etniske danskere. Var du, altså nå er du rådgiver for integreringsminister Tesfaye.
Ja. Ja.
Inger Støyberg før hun forsvant ut.
Ja.
Så blir det jo interessant å se hvor hun ender nå.
Ja.
Sorry for taking this much time, but it's to just establish also the story about how it is also to be flying. And Zineb, you have been living under very strict conditions for 6 years now, since the attack on Charlie Hebdo, killing a lot of your colleagues. You were in Morocco at the time. And first of all, I have to ask you, because, I mean, things happen in France. And we all remember what happened to the teacher, Samuel Paty. What did that do to you?
Yes, the beheading of Samuel Paty in France, a beheading in France. It was, I mean, for me, well, I didn't sleep many nights because I saw the picture. Not the picture of the beheading. I saw the picture of Samuel Paty as a human being. And he seemed to be such a cool guy, such a cool teacher. And for me, Samuel Paty is also a victim of Charlie Hebdo. And I felt like, when is this malediction ending? And also, I learned few days after that the terrorist, the Chechenian terrorist, who was a Chechenian refugee in France, who beheaded Samuel Paty, few days before what he did, 10 days approximately, he was looking for some targets to kill on the social media, and he supported the campaign of the Islamist, a French Islamist called Driss Hamdi, against me. Well, fortunately, I am well protected, so it's difficult to kill me with a knife. But I felt that Samuel Paty also died related to our own story, and it's still very, very hard to accept.
What Halima tells about is a story, a personal story, a family story, where her Juma was big, so they came after her. But this is the structural problem you're talking about. But do you recognize on the personal level, what Halima's stories is about?
Oh, yes. We come from two different backgrounds. Halima grew up in a Moroccan family in the immigration. And I grew up in a Moroccan family in Morocco, in a big city, in Casablanca. And my mother was French. And we know that the immigration, the Moroccan communities in Europe are much more conservative than the Moroccans in Morocco. But still, I also had this education. I had to study religion compulsory from kindergarten to high school. As a Moroccan, there is no freedom of faith. There is no freedom of belief. You are Muslim, either you want it or no. And if you decide not to be a Muslim, there are legal pursuits against you. And also, so there is all this, there are two concepts, the Hshuma concept and the haram concept. Haram, it's haram. I think a lot of you know this word. It's all the things forbidden by the religion. But when it comes to women, we are also in the Hshuma concept. So I grew up in a society where, for instance, in the family, if I'm lying down watching the TV, if a man enters the room, I have to sit. If you just walk in the streets with your friend and you're smiling, this is considered like you are a prostitute, you are appealing men. So there is a kind of control on the body which is daily, and it's a trauma. It's a trauma because this is something you keep carrying in your skin, even if you become a grown-up and you go to a free country, you still feel this control on your body as a woman.
I saw in your book that when you got married by the age of 15 to this twice older man, then you were accused of smiling too much on the photos.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And of course you didn't smile because you loved him, obviously.
No. But it's like Zineb tells, it's when you are married, you don't have to be eager to get married. Then you deal with this Hshuma. So you don't have to smile on your own wedding photos.
So that's part of it.
Yeah.
But then both of you now work in politics, and that is one of the reasons why we're here to discuss what Quinoa actually do, because there are a lot of horrible stories, and we know them, but we also know how hard it is to be out there and to be outspoken. And Zineb, since it's now a year of election in France, can you give us a little background on, because we remember perhaps that last February the National Assembly in France tried to curb Islamism by new legislations. What has happened since that?
Well, I think it's interesting to remind shortly what happened before that. 2015 was a annus horribilis in France. It was a horrible year. Charlie Hebdo and Hyper Cacher, the Jewish supermarket, kosher supermarket attacks. Then November, the Bataclan, Stade de France, multiple knives attacks. You know, we also have a kind of low-cost terrorism. You know, a guy with a knife attacks somebody, screaming Allahu Akbar, cutting throats. We had then Nice, the truck on the Promenade des Anglais who killed the children who were in their trolleys watching fireplace, and it's around 80 people were killed. We had a policeman who cut the throat of 4 of his colleagues at the very heart of the police prefecture in Paris. So it was popping everywhere. And so hundreds of people were killed in France in 5 years. And so, of course, all this was, the French people became very worried, and they realized that there is a problem. It's almost a war against France. It is a war against France. And so a lot of French people from the civil society wanted to understand what's happening, and they started getting interested in what's happening in their area, what's happening in the mosque, who is ruling the mosque, what are the relationships between the NGO behind the mosque and Qatar and the Muslim Brotherhood and terrorism. And actually, I was also one of these people, even if I work in this field from before, but I was horrified to discover 3 years ago that actually the French state works against terrorism on the security level, but nothing was done against Islamism. Islamism was considered as, okay, we are in a democratic country, you can be Islamist, while actually you cannot address terrorist issues without addressing the ideology behind. The terrorist, he is a product of a whole chain of production that starts with the guy sitting in the mosque who killed nobody, yes, but who says that people who listen to music are porks and pigs. That's what explains that years later you have guys who blow themselves in the Bataclan to kill people who listen to music. Guys who say that girls who are 8 or 9 years should be veiled. This also explains the rape culture against the women who are not veiled. So we needed to make this link between the ideology and the terrorism. It's a whole, I mean, the terrorists, they act by terror, but they have a project of society. The guys who don't act by terror also share this same project of society, which is the Islamization of the society. And so it was very important to push our politicians to tell them it's important to take in consideration that there are Islamists who act legally and who promote this same criminal ideology. So just suppose that if after Second World War in Europe, we took the Nazis and we tried them as common law criminals, without looking at the ideology, without banning Nazi books, without banning Nazi theater plays. This is exactly what is being done with Islamism, which is a criminal ideology. It cannot be addressed as a common law. Terrorism is not a common law crime. It's an ideological crime and political crime. So fortunately, the French state understood that, and many measures were taken, and they understood that also the Islamists who act in schools, in hospitals, in the administration, in the neighborhoods, those people also needs to be framed by laws and need also to understand that we are in a country that is laïque, secular, and yeah.
But I mean, after that, I mean, the tone in the French debate these days is quite something. It's horrible to one extent. And I know that you've been accused of being, the latest word I read now was in the fasciosphere.
Fasciosphere.
And
Fasciosphere.
what is that? And can you explain why you are in this sphere?
Well, fasciosphere, I think fascio, everybody understands what it is. Sphere. So la fasciosphere, the fascists. So I was accused by who? By
the leftist politician, Marxist, for instance.
What's his name?
Abassi Kazib.
Anas Kazib, yeah. Anas Kazib is an Islamist who demonstrated the 10th of November 2019 in an Islamist demonstration in Paris against Islamophobia. And the main slogan of this demonstration was Allahu Akbar. Anas Kazib actually did not talk only about me. He was commenting a cover page of Le Figaro magazine, which is a mainstream magazine in France. And on this cover, you had 5 women, all belonging to a Muslim background, who fight against Islamism. It was me, it was Najwa El Haïté, who is in Macron's party, which is not exactly a fascist party. It was Fatiha Boujhalat, who is a teacher from an Algerian origin in Toulouse. It was Sonia Mabrouk, who is a TV presenter from a Tunisian origin, and she works in the French TV and radio, not exactly a fascist. And the other one was a Norwegian woman, actually, who is Dana Manouchehri from a Persian origin. So Anas Kazib said that those women belonging to, born in a Muslim, in Muslim families are the fasciosphere. I wonder why he did not talk about the real far right in France who can have some Nazi reminiscence, anti-Semitic people. They exist. Why does he see that those women actually are the fasciosphere? It's first because it's somebody who wants to tell us as Muslim women, Muslim-born women, how we should think. One more guy who wants to tell us how we should think.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah. And second of all, it's a way of control. I mean, if a fully French-born person was saying the same thing, he wouldn't have commented. But as an Arab guy himself, he feels that he has an authority on us. So, this is a good old method. And also, I would want to add that what do Islamists have as a tool to shut our mouths? In the countries where Islam rules, they have tools. They jail you, they lash you, they kill you. Huh? But in France, in Norway, they cannot do this. So what do? They tell you, Islamophobic fascist, you hurt my feelings. Don't talk because, so it's actually what I say in a Muslim country, this is called blasphemy. But in France, this is called fascism. That's it.
Do you recognize this from Denmark?
Ikke helt. Not quite in that way you describe it, but men vi har så til gengæld, kan man sige, nogle andre problemer. Det er den uhyggelige magt, som sladder har, når man står frem.
I can translate this. She's talking about she doesn't recognize all of what you're saying, but she talks about the power that rumors have in a society. What will people say?
Yeah.
As a closing down on big, important subjects.
Og det er egentlig man bliver et gidsel mellem yderpolerne i det politiske spektrum. Nogle mener, at man er racist, eller at man er fascist eller racist, og andre mener, at det er et stort problem at blive gjort til en dagsorden i en politisk agenda. Så det her område bliver meget ofte brugt som, altså taget som et gidsel, og vi kvinder bliver, kan man sige, et symbol på den her gidseltagning i virkeligheden, i den politiske debat, i den offentlige debat. Og så er der hele det der Schomer-bagland, der står bagved og gnider sig i hænderne over, at det ikke lykkes os at komme videre og komme i bund med den her problematik.
Because when you can be kept hostage between those positions, those poles, between the people who want to accuse you of being racist or fascist.
Well, racist actually. Fascist means that you are racist.
But there is, I mean, if you go to the French political debate these days, there is a lot of racism as well. And now who's running for the Republicans, for instance? Eric Zemmour.
He's not running for the Republicans. He's running as an independent candidate, but he is, Eric Zemmour is a far-right guy because he has, let's say, historical positions about the history of France, such as rehabilitating Pétain, who collaborated with Vichy, such as saying, okay, Pétain, he gave the foreign Jews to the Nazis to save the French Jews, which is completely wrong, because actually the French Jews also were sent to the camps. These are positions, historically positions of the far right, but the Republicans are a party from the right, which is very far from the far right positions, and so each electoral year in France, the society is split. Even sometimes wives don't talk to their husbands for 2 months because they don't have the same political positions. Friends stop calling each other. And this election is quite, let's say, quite animated, agitated, because Zemmour is a candidate plus Marine Le Pen from the official far-right party. Plus, we still don't know who is exactly the candidate of the right, and the left is very this is a specialty of the left. They always come with 25 candidates, and that's why nobody of them wins. And plus Macron. So I know it's very bad to do pronostics because sometimes we can be mistaken, but this opens a boulevard to Macron, to, let's say,
You
the
think
center.
so?
Yeah. And the debate about those questions did not really wait for the presidential election.
No.
But now, those issues, Islamism is now an issue that is important in any election because the French people ask any candidate to position regarding that. There is no more denial, no more lying, which is good. When you know, a French writer, some of them might know him, Albert Camus, he said, when you don't name things properly, you add to the problems you add problems to the world. So before, for instance, I remember a few years ago, no French politician dared talk about Islam without saying, but Islam is a religion of peace and love, Islam, which means what it means. I mean, if it's a religion of peace and love, it's the only one. And and then we should all convert. We have found the solution for peace and love in the world. Now, nobody would dare to say this because strong criticisms came from the society. Because we also now, I mean, this year and next year, we have the trials. We had the trial of Charlie Hebdo 1 year ago in September. Now we were having the Bataclan trial. And in next September, we will have Nice, the truck attack trial. And behind every trial, there are hundreds of victims, of family members. And so the politicians cannot bullshit us anymore. Yeah.
And do you have stories like the story about the young girl, Mila?
Yes.
And tell us about Mila.
Well, Mila is a teenager. She is 15. She was not supposed to become a symbol of anything. She is just a normal teenager. She made some video in the social medias, not talking about religion, but saying that she was lesbian. And she was shitstormed, attacked by hundreds of mainly Muslim teenagers, telling her, you're shitty gween, which is the vulgar term in French to say lesbian, blah, 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 you will burn in hell. And so she replied to them. She told them, I don't give a shit about your Allah. And yeah, so automatically she was death threat. She received death threats as she became the new Salman Rushdie, you know, because of nothing, because of a teenager story. And now she lives under police protection. And her life is, I mean, she's a kid. And so what does this mean? What does this tell us about a religion of peace and love? What does this tell about the French society? Are we going to, you know, we are now many people in French who live under police protection. Are we going to put security officers behind everyone, or are we going to solve the problem? When I attended the trial of Charlie Hebdo, of course, the guys who killed my colleagues, the Kouachi brothers, they were killed. And so 13 guys were there being tried because they sold some weapon to somebody. No one of them was directly related to the terrorist attack. And, you know, when I testified in the trial, I said my feeling. I said, for me, the criminal is still outside. The guys who are here, tried as common law criminals, actually the main criminal for me was not arrested, neither tried. The criminal is the ideology of Islamism. And if the criminal was here in this box, just explain to me why I'm still living with bodyguards. If I'm still living with bodyguards, it means that the killer is still free and is still acting and wasn't arrested, neither tried.
You work as an advisor now for a politician. I mean, this is, it calls for political solutions, but what can we do?
Jeg tænker, at der er mange ting, man kan gøre, men det vi gør, og det vi har gjort i mange år, det er, at vi symptombehandler. Og det beskriver Zineb jo egentlig meget godt i forhold til, det er jo i virkeligheden ikke dem, som burde straffes, som bliver straffet. Bare for sådan at nævne, altså tage udgangspunkt i min egen konkrete situation. Jeg gik til politiet og fortalte dem, at jeg var truet på mit liv. Så sagde de, jamen har du noget dokumentation på det? Jamen nej, det har jeg ikke. Jeg fik det at vide i et telefonopkald. Så jeg har ikke optaget det telefonopkald. Nå, men så bliver det ord mod ord, så det kan vi ikke rigtig gøre noget ved. Havde de bare slået ham op i deres register, så havde de fundet ud af, at han var ikke Guds bedste barn. Og det kunne jo være, hvis det var, at de havde indkaldt ham tidligt i forløbet til en afhøring, at det kunne have haft en betydning i forhold til det forløb, jeg fik. Jeg tænker også, at vi skal se på den måde, vi integrerer folk i vores lande. Det, vi gjorde galt i 60-tallet og 70-tallet, der er rigtig mange gæstearbejdere, der kom til Skandinavien, var, at vi tænkte, lad dem passe sig selv. De skal bare jobbe, og når de har sparet nok penge op, så tager de tilbage til deres hjemlande. Det gjorde de bare ikke. For de år efter, så er de her stadigvæk. De har fået børn og børnebørn. Men de har ikke lært sig sproget. De har ikke lært om, hvad det er, der foregår uden for deres vinduer og uden for deres dør. De bor i små kan man sige, subkulturer i virkeligheden, som nogen kalder det parallelsamfund, andre kalder det små subkulturer, hvor man ikke har noget at gøre med samfundet udenfor. Jeg kan jo se på rigtig mange af dem, jeg kender, de har ikke kontakt med det danske samfund. Der er også så mange kender her, som ikke har kontakt med det norske samfund, hvor man tænker, jamen, er det meningen, at det skal være sådan? Er det ikke meningen? Altså, det er jo heller ikke meningen, at man skal sige til folk, at de skal efterlade al deres kultur og efterlade alt, hvad de har med sig. Det er jo ikke det, jeg tænker, der skal være udgangspunktet. Jeg tænker, det er vigtigt, at vi beder folk om at frelægge sig nogle af de værdier og normer, som er ødelæggende for mennesker, som er ødelæggende for det enkelte individ, som er ødelæggende for generationer. Fordi jeg kan se, at jeg har taget kampen op, men det har mine søskende ikke, og det har mange andre i min generation ikke gjort. Så derfor er der mange, der siger, jamen, det kommer til at løse sig om nogle år eller om nogle generationer, men det gør det ikke, fordi det går i arv. Og hvis ikke vi gør noget ved det, altså jeg plejer sådan at bruge et billede på, hvis du ikke graver ukrudt op med roden, så vokser den op igen år efter år. Og det er derfor, jeg mener, at vi skal kigge på lovgivningen. Er der noget, vi kan gøre i forhold til lovgivningen, hvor at vi kan få fokus på at få folk til at blive en del af fællesskabet, og blive en del af landet, og blive en del af den kultur, vi er med i. Og så skal vi se på, hvad samfundet kan gøre generelt, men vi skal også stille et ansvar. Stille nogle krav til de her mennesker, om at de skal lære sproget, lægge nogle af de her ødelæggende værdier bag sig, og komme videre i deres liv.
Talking about the solutions, and probably you could understand a few words of what Halima said. Not really. But I can ask you then, and then I can try to compare.
Well, I think that if our European democracies are struggling to find solution, sometimes they tried solutions that did not really work. And we all citizens have the feeling that things are getting worse year after year. This is for a reason. The reason is what I said a few minutes ago. It's that the things are not called by their names. So when we make the wrong diagnosis, we have the wrong solutions. So, for instance, we've been hearing the mainstream diagnosis, the mainstream reading of the situation for the past decades in Europe was, oh, they do this because of racism and because they grew up in poor neighborhoods. It's an economic problem. Well, this is not true. This is not true because Islamism is an ideology that is promoted by some of the richest countries in the world. And the guys, for instance, who did the 11 September attacks in the United States, they were rich Saudis, and they were engineers. They were not uneducated people from the suburbs. And also, we have many people who grew in poor Muslim families in the suburbs or in Muslim countries who did not become terrorists. So that's wrong. Second lie is that, unfortunately, a big part of the left in the European countries lost, the world evolved and the left lost the so-called labor class ouvrière that we have in the past. So they needed a new protectee. And they saw in the figure of the migrant this new labor to be protected by the left, which is not exactly the same, because Islamism does not really have something to do with the left. And by the way, we have to remind that when Islamists, they are in power, such as they did in Iran, they first start with the communists and kill them and put them in. The left should remember that. The other lie is that this is a cultural thing that we have to respect, and it's an issue of anti-racism. Well, this is also very easy to answer to, because Islam is not a race. If Islam is a race, so Christianism is a race. And so, for example, the fact of criticizing Christianism will be called Christianophobia. So racism against the Christian race, which is absurd. So why don't we apply that methodology to Christianism, but to Islam we consider it as a race? And actually, as I said, since Islamophobia is the word used in democracies to say blasphemy. So we have to dismantle all those lies and see the bare truth as it is. This is an ideology. This is a fascistic ideology, because in Islam, as in the European civilization, it is possible that a fascistic ideology can evolve and even thrive now. We have to remind that the Muslim Brotherhood, who are today in Europe the main people behind most of the European Islamic organizations, in Switzerland, in France, and in Belgium, in the Netherlands, the Muslim Brotherhood are an organization that was founded in the Muslim world, in Egypt, in the 30s. Its founder, who was Hassan al-Banna, the grandfather of Tariq Ramadan. Some of you must have heard of Tariq Ramadan, who was considered by the French media as a brilliant, moderate guy, until they found out that he was a rapist. So Hassan al-Banna, the founder of the Muslim Brotherhood, who is Tariq Ramadan's grandfather, he was a big admirer of Hitler. Al-Husseini, who was the Mufti of Jerusalem, even went to visit the Nazi regime, and he met Goering, and he also helped the Nazis to create a Muslim militia in Bosnia. So those guys, they are in the origin a fascistic ideology that came in the 30s, in 26 to be precise, and who covers all the aspects of the society, from the politics to what women should wear, to what people should eat. Those people, under a lot of cultural ignorance, they use this, and they use the anti-racist laws to come here and to implement their political project. So I think that once we see this bare reality, once we consider that those people are a political current, they don't represent all the Muslim-borns, because you see, you can have Muslim-borns like me who are atheists and who don't like Islamism. So once we have the right reading of the situation, I think the solutions will appear very clearly.
Are you nodding? I can say now that there will be some minutes to ask questions, and there are so many. I think we need a week, and fortunately, I will be traveling with you for some days now, so I can actually ask all the questions. But are there questions here now? I mean, we're just like on the surface of very, very big problems, and with no simple solutions. Here is a hand, and there is another one. So we have 3 now. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Inga. I'm a journalist. You were talking about solutions. And in Norway we have a system for granting money to churches and to mosques. So if we are going to stop Islamism, how can we do that? Should we stop giving money to mosques, or to mosques and churches, or only for stop granting money only for the mosques? That will be like impossible. Do you have any views on how to solve that issue?
Well, I'm not gonna dictate to Norwegians how things can happen in their country, because I think they are more qualified than me to understand what's happening there. I'm gonna give the French example. So in France, something very important in the history of France happened in 1905. But this year, the Norwegians were busy with something else, so they didn't really read the news about it.
We are happy you know.
Yeah. So in France, it was the official year of the separation between the churches, and not only the Catholic one, but the churches, any church, and the state. It means that it is a law which is called la laïcité. Laïcité is a term that is the English-speaking people translate it as secularism, but it's not secularism, because it has a legal meaning. The first article of this 42 articles law says that the state protects the freedom of belief and the free practice of religion, as long as they don't violate certain public order conditions that are cited in the law. Second article is the state do not fund, do not promote, nor have any religion. So in the French culture, we consider that if you are Christian, you want to have a church, it's not the atheist public taxpayers who finance your prayer. If you are Muslim, you want to have your mosque, you are in a free country. You can do it as long as your mosque does not call to kill the homosexuals or the Jews, but you pay it from your pocket. As me, I am, maybe my religion is, I don't know, the jazz. When I go to a jazz concert, it's not paid by the taxpayers. So, and this is in the French culture. We consider that people, if they have beliefs, it's their right. The state protects that right, but nobody else pays for it.
But then you have the situation that Saudi Arabia pays for the mosques in France instead. But that is another whole other topic. But there are a couple of more questions here. Yeah.
Hello, can you hear me? Yeah. Well, thank you very much for this wonderful house to accommodate these wonderful ladies here. I mean, I congratulate this house for being so brave, so absolutely daring it. And the same for the organization, LIM, really. I mean, it's something. I think it takes a bit of courage. I just wanted to ask Zineb, you said it's getting worse and worse. I totally agree with that. It is really getting worse. We're losing. The West is basically losing the fight against all the things we talked about. I mean, you must be really frustrated sometimes. You may get really those doom days. How do you pick yourself up, and where do you get your hopes from?
Wow. Well, I'm gonna answer very honestly. It's a personal answer. Yes, sometimes I am hopeless because I've been fighting Islamism almost since the middle of the 90s as a kid in Morocco, when I saw and I understood that it will going to be a problem in the future. At the time, I did never imagine that I will fight it in France. At least I thought that France is safe. Now I'm fighting against the Islamic medicine in France. You know how to heal cancer with camel piss and honey. So I am hopeless sometimes because I realized that that I never stopped fighting it, and it did never stop getting stronger. And it's quite discouraging to see that what you fight gets stronger. But this does not mean that I lost any hope, because history have shown that no fascism won on the long run. We still have to believe in our countries, in our model, be proud of it, and claim it, defend it, and do this battle with love. It was also a big realization for me the day I understood, actually, that I don't even hate the Islamists. I don't hate them because what I want for them is what I want for me. I want them to have a glass of champagne and relax, you know? I don't want for them. So I think that if we say that we lost, words have a power, and we don't have the right to say this. Instead of saying this, we have to fight and to be proud of our societies and to do something. Every one of us can do something. This is something the French start to understand, and people get involved at their level. Those who don't want to quit their sofa, they still act in the social medias at least, and they can be very useful.
One more question, and that is it, I think, before 3 more. But I think, I mean, do you allow us time? I mean, that is the biggest question. If people want to rush out to drink champagne now, I understand it as well.
Okay, I'll try and be short then. But it follows up on what you said and about hope. So one of my hobbies is listening to atheist Arabic social media, and that gives a lot of hope, especially from Morocco. Maybe I think Halima also said that sometimes the communities in the diaspora are more conservative than in the countries they come from. So like this is for us a phenomenon of maybe a globalization, but also in Muslim countries, or at least Arabic countries, you have also this feeling of the world is falling apart, because now there's this movement, there's waves of atheism, and now what shall we do now? Yeah, what do you think about it? Is this also not only there's this emergence of different thoughts, non-religious movements in Muslim majority countries, but also people, I think, over the years start to learn to talk to each other despite difference of opinion. So yeah, maybe you could comment on that.
Thank you for this question, because actually this question should also have been the answer to the other one. What gives me hope are those people who are my, you know, they are what fuels my engine and gives me the strength and the courage to continue. And I know that solutions will be found with them, because they are people who don't give a damn about being accused of being racist. They live in Egypt and they're Egyptians. They don't even speak foreign languages. They live in Morocco, they live in Tunisia, and they pay the price. They pay a very heavy price. And they know what the Islamist project is. Islamists cannot come and tell them we're moderate guys. They cannot bullshit them, because they know what is the project. I see those people in Saudi Arabia. I see them in the Emirates, in Bahrain, in all the North African countries, in Egypt. They are making, as you said, social medias where sometimes I go, I say, Charlie Hebdo, that was an old ladies' newspaper compared to the humor they can have about religion and in Arabic language. And I think that maybe one of the drawbacks we have here in Europe, I mean the people who want to act in that field, is that we are not enough in contact with them. Most of the European states actually, they fund the mosques, they fund the Muslim Brotherhood organizations who claim to be something else, but no help is given to those people, not even a visa. Not even a visa sometimes. They are completely abandoned, they are life-threatened, they are very courageous, they are amazing, and they are people who understood, and you know, they are the ones who will provide the solutions. And I totally believe in what you said, and thank you for having talked about them, because they are very important to us.
Thank you so much. My name is Sarah. I'm from Sudan, so a lot of what you've been saying is very recognizable. I just wanted to say that if you look around this room, you can see that there's not that many people from the diaspora with a Muslim background. So I guess it's related to what he's been saying. But how can we get so-called liberal Muslims to come out of their shells, to participate in these conversations a little bit more? Have you seen any examples of diaspora-level activities that we should be promoting and pushing forward? Thank you.
Det tror jeg gerne, jeg vil prøve at svare på. Vi kan gøre rigtig mange ting selv i forhold til at inddrage folk med minoritetsbaggrund. Hvis jeg bad jer, der sad i den her sal, om at rejse jer, som har en ven eller en veninde, der har minoritetsbaggrund, kan vi lade det komme an på en prøve? Hvor mange har en veninde eller en ven, tæt familie, ikke kollega, men en veninde eller en ven, må gerne rejse jer op? Okay, det var en del. Det var
More than you expected.
Ja. Men i hvert fald så tænker jeg, at næste gang der er sådan et slik arrangement, jamen så tag jeres ven eller veninde med, fordi det har en ufattelig høj pris at træde frem og tage bladet fra munden og turde blande sig i debatten og blande sig i at få tingene vendt om. Og der er det vigtigt, at vi tør række hånden ud til hinanden, også naboer eller kollegaer, og spørge ind og være nysgerrige på, hvad det er for et liv, de her mennesker lever, og vi ligesom kan lære hinanden at kende på kryds og tværs. Men jeg tror bare, at jeg ser det rigtig mange blandt nogle af dem, jeg omgås med i Danmark, at vi betaler en høj pris for at stå frem i offentligheden. Både personlig pris, men også en pris i forhold til, at man kommer til at være skydeskive for rigtig mange, både politikere, i forhold til pressen, i forhold til ens personlige baggrund. Det er en høj pris at betale, og det er ikke alle, der enten er stærke nok, eller har mod, eller tænker kanskje på deres børn, at de ikke har lyst til, at deres børn bliver skydeskive for enten racister eller fra nogen fra deres egen baggrund. Men meget relevant spørgsmål, du stiller.
Do you have something to add?
As an answer to the question, I think no, but I can add something to conclude if you...
Yeah. Is there one more question? I think there's, the last one.
I'll try to be short.
Yeah.
I was wondering about the women's movement, respectively, in Denmark and in France. Do you feel any support? Because I've been an active member of the radical feminist movement, established one here in Norway, and increasingly more irritated about the silence. And as you eloquently spoke about the fear of being called and labeled a racist, I think that is the thing why the women's movement don't speak here. So I'm wondering, how is it in Denmark and in France?
Well, I'm going to give a short example in France about the feminist movement. Feminist movement, I can divide it to two parts. You have the, unfortunately, women who now are becoming old ladies. They are 60, 70 years, which I call the universalist feminists, who fought for real battles. And now you have the neo-feminists. The neo-feminists in France, they made a big campaign about the advertisement and lingerie advertisement, where you can see a very beautiful ass in the Galerie Lafayette. They made a campaign against that. The same women, not only they say nothing against the niqab, but they say that's freedom. I think this describes quite well the situation. You will have a lot of women who will talk about, I hate this new vocabulary, white, straight men, because, some colleague told her that she has a beautiful skirt, a dress at work, but when a Muslim man will acid attack a woman, nothing. We don't hear. So this is also very dangerous. And this brings us to remind what is feminism. Feminism should be talking about women's rights. But unfortunately, feminism became a garbage bin where you throw the rights of the trans, migrants. All these are good causes, but it's not called feminism. It's called something else. And feminism is, I love this old slogan from the period between the two wars in France where the women were fighting for the right to vote, and they were saying, ni bourgeoise, ni prolétaire, femme d'abord, neither bourgeoise nor proletarian, woman first. I'm a woman before being something else. And this brings us to the main tool now used by Islamism. And this is why I'm going to tell the people here what I tell the people in France, talking about France, but I think it's the same in Norway. If you want to help, please don't buy this accusation of racism now popping against everybody, because this is the tool used by Islamists. Just when you hear those accusations of racism against you Norwegian people, because you don't want the niqab, because you don't want girls to be cut, remember that you are Norwegians. You belong to a nation who is one of the rare nations in the world who have anti-racist laws. You belong to a nation who hosted millions of foreigners, gave them the citizenship, equal rights with you, healed them in the hospitals for free when they were sick, schooled them for free. They could have sports, they could have a shelter. And one of the rare states in the world who comes at the end of the month, knocks in the door and say, take few 1,000 kronas to finish the month and feed your kids. This happens nowhere in the world. So you guys Norwegians have no lessons of anti-racism to receive from Islamists who still didn't understand the minimum of what human rights are. So always remember this and don't buy those accusations.
You know. Thank you very much, both of you.
Ja. Da kan du svare.
Do you want to say anything about the feminist situation in
Ja,
Denmark?
bare ultrakort. Der er ikke nogen opbakning fra feministerne i Danmark, desværre. Det er først her for nylig, at de kan se, at det er en kamp, der er nødvendig at tage sammen med os, kan man sige, medsøstre. Vi er jo først og fremmest kvinder, det vil jeg give Zineb ret i. Vi er jo først og fremmest kvinder, før vi er vores etniciteter eller noget andet i det hele taget. Jeg har været inde i det her område i 20 år og forsøgt at arbejde med negativ social kontrol og æresrelaterede konflikter. Det er først her, det sidste års tid, hvor at jeg har stået ved siden af integreringsministeren og påpeget, at det er et problem, at de rækker ud. Men det er meget, meget, meget i det små stadigvæk. Vi har lang vej at gå endnu, før at det bliver en kvindekamp, før det bliver en etnicitetskamp eller en anden som helst anden kamp. Yes.
Tusen hjertelig takk. Jeg håper alle har lyttet og lært mye i dag. Det har jeg gjort selv. Vi har en innledergave til de som har sittet i panelet. Det er bilde av Mohammed Korrekturtegningen i en sensurert versjon. Kunstneren sitter her i salen, Andrea Weiden, litt lengre. Dessverre er dette her et kunstverk som hun var redd for å stille ut, så hun har solgt noen av disse i en litt mer sensurert versjon. Men den her som var litt klarere versjon har hun vært redd for å stille ut på grunn av situasjonen vi vet og derfor synes vi det var en perfekt gave å gi til våre paneldeltagere. Is that art? Yeah, I had told her before.
Thank you.
So thank you so much, everyone. Yes.